Greetings, fifth graders. Today we will be reviewing area and perimeter in the context of this African American portrait gallery that we are going to design. So we are going to be putting pictures on the wall and we're going to be figuring out what we need to do for these pictures. Okay, let's look at the first problem. So we have this beautiful picture of Miss Rosa Parks. You'll know her as the mother of the Civil Rights Movement. Her courageous act of refusing to give up her seat on a crowded bus led to a year-long bus boycott, okay, in Montgomery, Alabama. This boycott bankrupted the city bus company and eventually led to African Americans' ability to sit in any seat on the bus. So we're looking at this gorgeous picture and we want to know how much border will be needed for this frame, okay? How much border will be needed to frame this photograph? So when we're looking at border, I know you remember we've been talking about the outside. So when we're thinking about the outside, we are finding the perimeter, okay? So we're focused on these kinds of equations. So we have some equations for the perimeter of a square, as well as some equations for the perimeter of a rectangle. Now I notice I have a side that's 20 centimeters and another side that's 36 centimeters. So it cannot be a square. It has to be a rectangle. So I can either look at length plus width plus length plus width, or I can look at 2 of my lengths plus 2 of my widths, or I can add my length and width together and then multiply that answer by 2. I'm going to use this last equation, okay? I am going to add 20 plus 36 because those are the dimensions of my rectangle. 20 plus 36 equals 56. And now I'm going to multiply that quantity times 2. So 56 times 2, I look at 6 times 2, which equals 12. Okay, so I put the 1 above the 5, and then 5 times 2 equals 10, plus 1 is 11. So the border needed is going to be 112, don't forget my units, centimeters. All right? Go ahead and jot that answer down on your recording sheet. Make sure you note which equation you used, as well as your answer. You can pause this video if you still need time to write. All right, for our next question, we have another photograph here. Oh, look at this. Look at that woman in the picture. That is Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges was just a child when she made an impact on the civil rights movement. She was the first African-American child to integrate an all-white elementary school in the South. She spent most of this school year in a class by herself, but eventually she was able to learn with other children. So they're asking us how much border will be needed to frame this image. Did you notice a key word or phrase in this question? Did you notice border and frame? Okay, again, looking at the outside, that is perimeter. So we do not need to look at those area equations. We're solely going to focus on our perimeter equations. I'm looking, I have side lengths of 4 and 5/10 feet, as well as 3 feet. Would that be a square? Nope, because those sides are not equal. So yet again, I am looking at the perimeter of a rectangle, and I can use either of these equations. Okay, I still liked that one I did last time, so I'm just going to do perimeter equals L plus W, that quantity times 2. So I'm going to add 4 and 5/10 plus 3. Oh, I need to make sure that I line up my 3 where it should go. Point under point. Well, in the number 3, there's no decimal point. So I'm going to put it in the ones place. And I can still put a decimal point there. And I can put a 0 after it if I'd like. Now I can add these 2 amounts. 5 plus nothing is 5. 4 plus 3 is 7. And bring down my decimal point. Now, I need to multiply 7 5/10 times 2. I'm going to also stack this. It's going to make it a little easier for me to multiply. Now, if you remember, when we multiply decimals, I can ignore the decimal point first, and then when I look at my answer, just make sure the same number of digits to the right of my decimal points are in my product, in my answer. So I'm going to look at this. 5 times 2 is 10. Put my 0 here. I'm going to regroup my 1. Then I have 7 times 2. Well, that's 14. Plus 1 would be 15. Okay. Now, I'm going to look to see where does my decimal point go. When I look at my numbers I started multiplying, I had this 1 digit to the right of my decimal point. Nothing else in the numbers I'm multiplying. So in my answer, I'm going to make sure 1 digit is to the right of my decimal point. So then it looks like 15 and no tenths. And I can just simply write that as 15. 15 what? 15 feet. Okay? That's going to be a pretty big picture. All right. Go ahead and write down your answers. Make sure you show me your equations, okay, or your formula that you wanted to use, in addition to your work. If you need to pause this video, pause it so you can finish writing this down. Okay, look at our next question. We have this wonderful photograph of Althea Gibson. Before Venus and Serena Williams were born, Althea Gibson stepped on the scene as the first African-American tennis player to compete at the United States National Championships in 1950. The following year, she was the first Black player to compete at Wimbledon. The question is this: in square inches, how much of the wall will this portrait cover? Look at our key words. Talking about square inches and something being covered. What kind of operation is this? Ding, ding, ding. You guessed it. It is area. Now look at the dimensions. This lets us know if we have a rectangle or a square. 68 inches on one side, 95 inches on the other. Since they're not the same, it is definitely a rectangle. Okay, so to find the area, we need to multiply 68 times 95. Okay, I am going to set up a box method to do this multiplication. All right, across the top, I'm going to write 68 in expanded form. On the side, I'm going to write 95 in expanded form. In this first box, I'm multiplying 90 times 60, which equals 5,400. Top right, I'm multiplying 90 times 8, which equals 720. Bottom left, I'm multiplying 60 times 5, which equals 300, because I have 30 plus 1 0. And finally, the last box is 8 times 5, which equals 40. So I'm simply going to add my partial products to get my final answer. Okay, I added 300 plus 40, and now I'm adding 340 to 6,120. Okay, and I would get 6,460. You can click pause on this video if you still need time to write things down. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope it makes sense.